second graders. Oh, I guess I can't call you that anymore, can I? Because now you finished all of your work. You finished up all the work we're doing in all of our textbooks, so you are no longer second graders. I guess I'll have to start calling you third graders. That doesn't even sound right. I'm so proud of you guys and girls for all the hard work you've been doing, especially these last few weeks, yes. But the entire school year, you've worked hard. You kept up your grades. We stayed on the honor roll the entire time, all the way through. I'm so proud of you guys for that. Well done. Can't wait to see you on Monday for our last turn-in day, turn in the last of that work. Then you'll be out the door and ready for summer. All right? Let's read a little more Charlie and Chocolate Factory. I'll be doing a couple more videos over the next couple of days just to finish it up. We don't have a lot left, but we need to finish that book up, okay? So let's get into it. Chapter 21, Goodbye, Violet. This gum, Mr. Wonka was explaining, is my latest, my greatest, my most fascinating invention. It's a chewing gum meal. It's, how can I explain it? That tiny little strip of gum lying there is a whole 3-course dinner all by itself. What sort of nonsense is this? Said one of the fathers. Oh, my dear sir, it is not nonsense, said Mr. Wonka. When I start selling this gum in the shops, it's going to change everything. It'll be the end of all kitchens and all cooking. There will be no more marketing and shopping to do, no more buying of meat and groceries. There'll be no knives and forks at meal times, no plates, no washing, no garbage, no mess. Just a little strip of Wonka's magic chewing gum. Excuse me. And that's all you'll ever need at breakfast, lunch, and supper. This piece of gum I've just made happens to be tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie. But you can have almost anything you want. What do you mean that piece of gum is tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie? Said Violet Beauregard. Well, if you were to start chewing it, said Mr. Wonka, then that's exactly what you would get on the menu. It's absolutely amazing. You can actually feel the food going down your throat and into your tummy. And you can taste it perfectly. It fills you up. It satisfies you. It's terrific. It's utterly impossible, said Veruca Salt. Just so long as it's gum, shouted Violet Beauregard. Just so long as it's a piece of gum and I can chew it, then that's for me. And quickly she took her own world record piece of chewing gum out of her mouth and stuck it behind her left ear. Ooh, that's gross. Come on, Mr. Wonka, she said. Hand over this magic gum of yours and we'll see if this thing works. Now, Violet, said Mrs. Beauregard, her mother, don't do anything silly, dear. I want the gum, Violet said obstinately. What's so silly about that? I would rather you didn't take it, dear, Mr. Wonka told her gently. You see, I haven't gotten it quite right yet. There's still one or two things. Oh, forget it, said Violet, and suddenly, before Mr. Wonka could stop her, she shot out her hand and grabbed the stick of gum out of the little drawer and popped it into her mouth. At once, her well-trained jaw started chewing away on it like a pair of tongs. Oh, don't, said Mr. Wonka. Oh, it's fabulous, shouted Violet. It's tomato soup. It's hot and creamy and delicious. I can feel it running down my throat. Stop, said Mr. Wonka. The gum's not ready yet. It's not right. Of course it's right, said Violet. It's working beautifully. Oh, what lovely soup this is. Spit it out, please, said Mr. Wonka. Oh, it's changing, shouted Violet, chewing and grinning both at the same time. The second course is coming up. Roast beef is tender and juicy. Wow, what flavor. Oh, the baked potato's marvelous, too. It's got a crispy skin and it's all filled with butter inside. How interesting, Violet, said Mrs. Beauregard. You are a clever girl. Keep chewing, kiddo, said Mr. Beauregard. Keep right on chewing, baby doll. This is a great day for the Beauregards. Our little girl is the first person in the world to have a chewing gum meal. Everybody was watching Violet as she stood there chewing this extraordinary gum. Little Charlie was staring at her absolutely amazed, watching her lips as they pressed and unpressed with the chewing. And Grandpa Joe stood beside him, gaping at the girl. Mr. Wonka was wringing his hands and saying, No, it isn't ready for eating. It isn't right. You mustn't do it. Blueberry pie and cream, shouted Violet. Here it comes. Oh, my, it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's exactly as though I'm swallowing it. It's as though I'm chewing and swallowing great big spoonfuls of the most marvelous blueberry pie in the world. Good heavens, girl, said Mrs. Beauregard suddenly, staring at Violet. What's happening to your nose? Oh, be quiet. quiet, Mother, and let me finish, said Violet. Uh-oh, do you hear that bad attitude? We should never talk to our parents that way, should we? Your nose, it's turning blue, screamed Mrs. Beauregard. Your nose is turning blue as a blueberry. Your mother is right, shouted Mr. Beauregard. Your whole nose has gone purple. What do you mean? Said Violet, still chewing away. Your cheeks, screamed Mrs. Beauregard. They're turning blue as well. So is your chin. Your whole face is turning blue. Spit that gum out right now, said Mr. Beauregard. Oh, please, save us all, yelled Mrs. Beauregard. The girl's going blue and purple all over. Even her hair is changing color. Violet, you're turning violet, Violet. What's happening to you? I told you I hadn't gotten it quite right, sighed Mr. Wonka, shaking his head sadly. I'll say you haven't, cried Mrs. Beauregard. Just look at the girl now. Everybody was still staring at Violet, and ooh, what a terribly peculiar sight she was. Her face and hands and legs and neck, in fact, the skin all over her body, as well as her great big mop of hair, had turned a brilliant purplish blue, the color of blueberry juice. It always goes wrong when we come to the dessert, said Mr. Wonka. It's the blueberry pie that does it, but I'll get it right one day. Don't you just know it? Wait and see. Violet, you're swelling up, screamed her mother. Oh, I don't feel so good, said Violet. You're swelling. You keep, what's happening? Said her mother. I feel most peculiar, gasped Violet. I'm not surprised, said Mr. Beauregard. Great heavens, girl, you're blowing up like a balloon, screeched Mrs. Beauregard. Like a blueberry, ma'am, said Mr. Wonka. Call the doctor, shouted Mr. Beauregard. Prick her with the pen and see if she goes up like a balloon, said one of the other fathers. Save her, cried Mrs. Beauregard, wringing her hands. But there was no saving her now. Her body was swelling up and changing shape at such a rate that within a minute it had turned into nothing less than an enormous round blue ball. Blueberry, in fact. And all that remained of Violet Beauregard herself was a tiny pair of legs and a tiny pair of arms sticking out of a great round fruit with a little head on top. It always happens like that, said Mr. Wonka. I've tried it 20 times in the testing room on 20 Oompa Loompas, and every one of them finished up as a blueberry. It's most annoying. I just can't understand it. But I don't want a blueberry for a daughter, yelled Mrs. Beauregard. Mr. Wonka clicked his fingers, and 10 Oompa Loompas appeared immediately at his side. Roll Miss Beauregard into the boat, he said to them. Take her to the juicing room at once. The juicing room, said Mrs. Beauregard. What are they going to do to her there? Squeeze her, said Mr. Wonka. We've got to squeeze all that juice out of her immediately. After that, we'll just have to see how she comes out. But don't worry, my dear Mrs. Beauregard. We'll get her repaired if it's the last thing I do. I really am sorry about it all. Already, the 10 Oompa Loompas were rolling the enormous blueberry across the floor of the inventing room toward the door that led to the chocolate river where the boat was waiting. Mr. and Mrs. Beauregard hurried after them. The rest of the party, including little Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe, stood absolutely still and watched them go. Listen, whispered Charlie. Listen, Grandpa, the Oompa Loompas in the boat outside are starting to sing again. The voices, 100 of them singing together, came loud and clear into the room. Dear friends, we surely all agree there's almost nothing worse to see than some repulsive little chum who's always chewing gum. It's very near as bad as those who sit around and pick their nose. So believe us when we say that chewing gum will never pay. This sticky habit's bound to send the chewer to a sticky end. Chapter 22, Along the Corridor. Well, sighed Mr. Willy Wonka. 2 naughty little children gone. 3 good little children left. I think we'd better get out of this room quickly before we lose anyone else. But Mr. Wonka, said Charlie anxiously, will Violet Beauregard ever be all right again, or will she always be a blueberry? Well, they'll dejuice her in no time flat, declared Mr. Wonka. They'll roll her into the dejuicing machine. She'll come out just as thin as a whistle. But will she still be blue all over? Asked Charlie. Yes, she's going to be purple, said Mr. Wonka. A fine, rich purple from head to toe. But there you are. That's what comes of chewing that disgusting gum all day long and having a bad attitude. If you think chewing gum is so disgusting, said Mike TV, why do you make it in your factory? I do wish you wouldn't mumble, young man, said Mr. Wonka. I can't hear a word you're saying. Now, come on, off we go. Hurry up, follow me. We're going into the hallway again. And so saying, Mr. Wonka scuttled across to the far end of the inventing room and went out through a small secret door hidden behind a lot of pipes and stoves. The three remaining children, Veruca Salt, Mike TV, and Charlie Bucket, together with the 5 remaining grown-ups, followed after him. Charlie saw that they were now back in one of those long pink hallways, with many other pink hallways leading out of it. Mr. Wonka was rushing along in front, turning left and right and left, and Grandpa Joe was saying, "Keep a good hold on my hand, Charlie. It would be terrible to get lost in here." Mr. Wonka was saying, "No time for any more messing about. We'll never get anywhere at the rate we've been going." And on he rushed down the endless pink hallways with his black top hat perched on the top of his head and his plum-colored velvet coattails flying out behind him like a flag in the wind. Grandpa Joe and Charlie were half running, half walking to keep up with Mr. Wonka, but they were able to read what it said on quite a few of the doors as they hurried by. "Eatable marshmallow pillows," it said on one. "Oh, my marshmallow pillows are terrific," shouted Mr. Wonka as they dashed by. "They'll be all the rage when I get them into the shops. No time to go in now, though. No time to go in." Another door said lickable wallpaper for nurseries. "Lovely stuff, lickable wallpaper," cried Mr. Wonka. "It has pictures of fruits on it, bananas, apples, grapes, strawberries, snozberries." "Snozberries," said Mike TV. "Don't interrupt," said Mr. Wonka. "The wallpaper has pictures of all of these fruits printed on it, and when you lick the picture of banana, it tastes of a banana, and when you lick a picture of a snozberry, it tastes just like a snozberry. But what does a snozberry taste like?" "You're mumbling again," said Mr. Wonka. "Speak louder next time. On we go. Hurry up." "Hot ice cream for cold days," it said on the next door. "Oh, extremely useful in the winter, that will be," said Mr. Wonka, hurrying on. "Hot ice cream warms you up in freezing weather. I also make hot ice cubes for putting in hot drinks. Hot ice cubes make hot drinks hotter. Cows that give chocolate milk," it said on the next door. "Ah, my pretty little cows," said Mr. Wonka. "How I love them." "But why can't we see them?" asked Veruca Salt. "Why do we have to go rushing on past all these lovely rooms?" "We shall stop in time," called out Mr. Wonka. "Don't be so badly impatient." "Fizzy lifting drinks," it said on the next door. "Oh, those are fabulous," said Mr. Wonka. "They fill you with bubbles, and the bubbles are full of a special kind of chemical, a kind of gas, and this gas is so terrifically lifting that it lifts you right off the ground, just like a balloon, and up you go until your head hits the ceiling, and there you stay." "But how do you come down again?" asked little Charlie. "Oh, you do a burp, of course," said Mr. Wonka. "You do a big, long, rude burp. Up comes the gas, down comes you. But don't drink it outdoors. There's no knowing how high you'll be carried off if you do that. I gave some to an old Oompa Loompa once out in the backyard, and he went up, 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 and disappeared out of sight. It was very sad. I never saw him again." "He should have burped," said Charlie. "Of course he should have burped," said Mr. Wonka. "I stood there shouting, 'Burp, you silly man, burp, or you'll never come down again.' But he either didn't, or he couldn't, or he wouldn't. I don't know which. Maybe he was just too polite. He must be on the moon by now." On the next door it said, "Square candies that look round." "Wait," said Mr. Wonka, skidding suddenly to a halt. "I am very proud of my square candies that look round. Let's take a peek." And that's where we'll pick up next time. Love you guys. Bye.